Trade rumors have a way of coming out of nowhere, and every once in a while they involve a player almost nobody expected to become available. That's exactly what happened when Shams Charania shared an update that immediately grabbed attention, connecting an all-star, a former Rookie of the Year, and one of the league's biggest young names to the trade market. Even more surprising, one of the teams tied to that situation was the Golden State Warriors. Warriors fans are going to want to keep a close eye on this because if it actually develops, it could give Stephen Curry the high-level offensive partner the team has been searching for over the last several seasons. Here's the key part of Shams' report. According to his sources, the Charlotte Hornets are open to discussing a LaMelo Ball trade, and multiple teams are actively trying to make something happen while Charlotte continues those conversations. For a franchise like Golden State, which has been looking for another true playmaker to ease the offensive burden on Curry, this is exactly the type of situation worth watching. Just imagine LaMelo Ball sharing the backcourt with Stephen Curry for a moment. Once you think about why Ball could realistically be available and compare that to what the Warriors have lacked for years, it's easy to understand why this possibility has generated so much attention heading into the offseason. We'll break down exactly why a player of Ball's caliber could be on the market, because it's one of the more intriguing stories unfolding right now. And yes, all the obvious questions are coming, from the financial hurdles under the apron to the trade cost and Ball's injury history, and we'll cover every one of those points. But before getting there, it's worth looking at the bigger picture, because pairing a dynamic young all-star creator with Stephen Curry is the type of move teams hope can change a championship race. It all starts with understanding why LaMelo Ball is even being discussed in trade talks. Since arriving in Charlotte, LaMelo has been the centerpiece of the Hornets and the player the organization built its future around. The problem is that the success hasn't followed the talent, and now the front office appears willing to seriously explore a different direction. Reports indicate Charlotte isn't simply taking calls out of curiosity. They're actively involved in trade discussions while several teams continue pursuing Ball, and that's a major development in the current market. When a franchise spends years building around a player and then starts entertaining the idea of trading him, every serious contender has to pay attention. That's the situation with LaMelo Ball, and we're not talking about an ordinary name here. He's an all-star caliber guard, a dynamic playmaker who controls the ball, fills up the stat sheet, and is capable of producing the biggest highlight of the game on any possession.
What makes this so significant is the combination of elite talent and a team that now appears willing to move him. That's usually the formula that puts a player of this level on the market, and right now the opportunity seems more real than it has ever been. It also reflects the way player movement has changed across professional sports. Just look at everything that's already happened this offseason. A two-time most valuable player, once considered completely untouchable by his franchise, was moved in a blockbuster deal. The NFL also saw a star all-pro wide receiver traded to a new team. Big names that once seemed impossible to imagine in trade talks have continued changing teams, proving that the old idea of untouchable players doesn't carry the same weight anymore. Charlotte has reportedly made it clear that it's listening, with the Hornets actively involved in discussions involving multiple teams. So if anyone says a young star like LaMelo Ball could never be traded, remember that's the same thing people believed about plenty of other stars before those deals actually happened. The market is active, the opportunity is there, and now it comes down to which organization is willing to make the move. That brings us back to LaMelo Ball himself, because it's worth remembering exactly what kind of player he is. He's one of the NBA's most gifted offensive guards, a former Rookie of the Year and an all-star who has already shown what he can do at the highest level. Standing 6'7", Ball combines size, court vision, and creativity in a way very few point guards can match. He's comfortable pulling up from deep, delivers passes that most players wouldn't even attempt, and has proven he can put together explosive scoring stretches that energize an entire arena. What makes LaMelo Ball stand out is the way he approaches the game. He plays with confidence, creativity, and an energy that's hard to ignore, which is a big reason he's viewed as one of the NBA's most exciting young guards. He's still early in his career, continues to develop, and his best basketball could still be ahead of him. Bringing in a player like that isn't simply about adding another contributor, it's about landing the kind of second star who can completely elevate an offense. His resume backs up that level of excitement. Ball is a Rookie of the Year winner, an NBA All-Star, and became the youngest player in league history to record a triple-double early in his career. At 6'7", he has the size of a forward, the vision of an elite playmaker, and the shooting ability to stretch defenses. His height allows him to see passing lanes that most guards can't, and he regularly delivers passes that very few players would even attempt. He's also produced multiple 50-point performances during his career and knocked down deep transition threes that have completely changed the atmosphere inside an arena. When Ball is healthy and playing at his best, he's one of the league's most entertaining offensive talents, capable of taking over a game in a matter of minutes.
Players with that combination of youth, size, skill, and court vision rarely become available, which is exactly why these trade discussions have drawn so much attention. Now, look at it from Golden State's perspective, because the fit starts to make a lot of sense. The Warriors are in the closing chapter of one of the greatest dynasties the NBA has ever seen. Stephen Curry remains an incredible player, but it's clear that maximizing the years he has left is becoming increasingly important. After a season where Golden State looked closer to the play-in picture than true championship contention, one weakness continued to stand out. For years, the Warriors have been searching for another reliable offensive creator who can run the offense when Curry sits, create his own scoring opportunities, and serve as a dependable second option once playoff basketball slows down. If the goal is to make one more serious championship push with Curry, adding a player like LaMelo Ball directly addresses that need. Picture the greatest shooter in NBA history sharing the floor with a 6'7" playmaker who can both score and create at a high level. That combination would force defenses into impossible decisions, with two elite long-range threats capable of generating quality looks not only for themselves, but for everyone else on the court. Now imagine what Golden State's offense could look like if there was never a major drop-off whenever Stephen Curry headed to the bench. Instead of the attack slowing down, LaMelo Ball could take over as the primary playmaker, keeping the pace, creativity, and scoring pressure alive. There's another reason this idea stands out too. Because Ball is still young, he wouldn't only help during Curry's remaining championship window, he could also become an important piece of the franchise's future once that era eventually comes to an end. For a Warriors team searching for both immediate help and a long-term answer at the second creator spot, it's easy to see why a move like this would be appealing. Of course, making it happen is where things become much more difficult. Golden State is operating with very little financial flexibility under the NBA's apron restrictions, and reports suggest that any blockbuster deal would likely require Jimmy Butler's expiring contract to serve as the primary salary match. That means the Warriors would probably have to part with a key veteran while he's still recovering from a torn ACL, along with meaningful draft assets if they wanted to acquire LaMelo Ball. There's no denying that putting together a trade like this would be complicated. At the same time, the Warriors have consistently shown over the years that they're willing to be aggressive when they believe their championship window is still open. Adding a young all-star creator alongside Curry is exactly the type of move an organization in that position would consider. If the reward is finally giving Curry the second offensive engine he's been missing, the complexity of the deal alone isn't likely to scare them away. That said, it's only fair to address the biggest concerns surrounding this scenario. The first obstacle is the financial side. Trying to fit Ball's sizable contract while navigating the league's strict apron rules would be incredibly challenging and could require moving Butler along with other important rotation players. That's easily the biggest hurdle facing any potential deal. Still, difficult doesn't automatically mean impossible, especially for a front office that has found creative ways to land star talent before. If the priority is maximizing Curry's final title opportunities, the challenge may be worth taking on rather than walking away from. The other major concern is Ball's durability, and that's probably the most legitimate basketball question in the entire discussion. He has dealt with a well-documented injury history, particularly involving his ankles, and those issues have caused him to miss significant stretches over the past few seasons. One of the biggest concerns with a move like this is the amount of money involved. If you're making that kind of investment, you're also betting on a player whose injury history has raised legitimate questions over the past few seasons. The argument on the other side is that playing for a deeper roster could reduce the workload Ball has to carry every night, which might help him stay healthier over the course of a season. Even so, it's still a risk that can't be ignored. Another point people will bring up is the defensive fit. LaMelo Ball is known first and foremost for what he does offensively, and Golden State already has defensive issues to work through. That's a fair concern, but at 6'7", Ball has the size to defend multiple positions, and his offensive value would make an immediate impact.
In the right system, teams can often protect a high-level creator on defense, making the offensive upside well worth the compromise. So here's where I land on all of this. If Golden State somehow gets this deal across the finish line, it finally gives Stephen Curry the secondary playmaker the organization has been searching for throughout the later stages of his career. At the same time, they'd be bringing in a young all-star who could help carry the franchise into its next chapter after Curry eventually steps away. Just imagine Curry and LaMelo sharing the floor together. You'd have two elite long-range shooters with outstanding vision, creating opportunities for each other while forcing defenses to defend every inch of the court. Whether that combination ultimately delivers another championship would depend on two things above everything else: Ball staying healthy and the partnership working as well on the court as it looks on paper. That's the real discussion. Still, the potential of a Curry and LaMelo pairing is high enough to put Golden State back into legitimate championship conversations. And for a franchise that has built its success around Curry, it's the type of gamble that makes sense. The final point is the one that really stands out. Players like LaMelo Ball almost never hit the trade market during the prime of their careers because teams usually do everything they can to keep that kind of talent.
But every so often, an organization decides it needs a fresh start after failing to turn potential into consistent winning. When that happens, an opportunity that once seemed impossible suddenly becomes real. That's why this situation involving LaMelo Ball has generated so much attention. And if the Warriors truly believe their championship window is closing while still needing another elite creator besides Stephen Curry, they're exactly the kind of team that should be paying very close attention. When a legitimate all-star becomes available and your championship window is starting to close, you don't ignore the opportunity. You at least find out what it would take to make a deal happen. That's the position the Warriors could be in right now if LaMelo Ball is truly available. Let's simplify the entire picture. Golden State is trying to maximize the final years of one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history after missing the playoffs, and one issue has remained unresolved for years: finding a true second creator alongside Stephen Curry. Now, there's a young all-star in his prime who brings the size, shooting, and playmaking the Warriors have been searching for. The challenges are obvious. There's the apron, the financial gymnastics required to move Jimmy Butler's contract, and Ball's injury history. But ask yourself this: how often does a player with this skill set realistically become available? If this opportunity is real, the bigger question becomes whether Golden State is willing to be aggressive enough to pursue it. To be clear, nothing has been finalized. There are no reports saying a deal is close, and there's no reason to treat this like it's already done. The concerns surrounding the salary cap, Butler's contract, and Ball's durability are all legitimate, and completing a trade like this would be extremely complicated. Even with those obstacles, the talent is undeniable. The basketball fit next to Stephen Curry is incredibly intriguing, and players who can serve as an all-star level co-creator during their prime rarely hit the market. That's why Shams Charania's report placing the Warriors in this conversation immediately caught so much attention. When you combine Ball's ability, his potential fit in Golden State, and the fact that a player of his caliber may actually be available, it's easy to understand why so many people believe the Warriors should at least explore every possible path to getting a deal done. Over the next few weeks, this is definitely a situation worth watching, because once multiple teams begin pursuing a star, negotiations can move much faster than expected. Now I want to hear your opinion. If you're running the Warriors, do you move Butler, include the necessary assets, and work around the apron restrictions to pair LaMelo Ball with Stephen Curry for one more championship push? Or do the financial hurdles and injury concerns make the price simply too high? Somewhere in the Bay Area, the Warriors could be evaluating whether this is the co-star they've been searching for throughout Curry's later years. And meanwhile, in Charlotte, the Hornets appear ready to listen as they wait to see which team is willing to make the strongest offer.